In this lesson, we're going to start learning about extendable classes and inheritance. There are several different types of extensions within Salesforce. We have the virtual and abstract classes, and then we also have interfaces. This lesson is going to talk about virtual classes. We'll get to the abstract and interfaces in later lessons. What we're going to do is we're going to create a logger and logging classes. And the logger, the whole purpose of the logger is going to be when we have any errors that happen within Apex, we want to log them and then be able to create a record with those, so that way we're then able to do any action or reporting or something on it compared to just debugging or presenting an error. So first what we're going to do is we're going to create a class, or not a class, an object within Salesforce for logging it. So we're going to create a custom object. I'm in the object manager right now. So then if we will create it as, we'll do logger, and then loggers, and the data type for the logger name, we're going to want an auto number, and it'll be log, square brackets, 1, 2, 3, 4, we'll do 5 zeros, and then start at the 0 number. Then what we want to do is we want to add a couple of fields. We will add the text area long, and we'll name this one message. So this will be the message of the error. And then we'll make it visible for all. And then a new one, we'll do another text area long. We'll call it stack trace. And this would be within Apex, which line within the stack it would be. So we can trace back to find out where the error occurred. And then we'll do a couple of text fields. We'll have a type for the type of log. Same thing, visible to all. Another text field. We'll call it cause. This would be for what caused the log. And then we'll have another text field. And this will be line number. Okay, now that we have those all done, we can switch to Visual Studio Code and then create a class. We'll call this class simple logger. And then instead of having with sharing, because that's not going to matter, we can just have it be the default. We want this to be virtual. So this is going to be a virtual class. And the whole point of virtual classes is that you can create a class that's extendable. So that way I can create another class, which we'll be doing, that extends this simple logger class. And what we mean by extension and extending the class means that everything that we create within this class we'll be able to bring over to the next class, and then that class we can iterate off of and create additional methods that are only pertaining to that class. So if we wanted a simple logger and then a more complex one, or there's a different reason for having a different type of logger but still using most of the simple logger class, we can start to make changes to it and still be leveraging the simple logger. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a couple of private strings. We'll do one for cause. It'll be one for each of the fields that we created. So private string message, private string stack trace, private string type, private string line number. And then we can have an empty constructor. And we can also have, we'll do another constructor. This one taking in a string. We'll just say that the message can be brought in right away when we construct the class. So we do this dot message and then equal to message. So then we're setting the message string. And then again, since this is private, these are all private, we can't get or set them, at least at this point in time, outside of this class. So then, because they're private, we need to create some classes that are going to set the methods. So we'll do public void set message, and I'll take a string of message, this dot message equal to message, and then I will copy this and we will have a set. We'll do stack trace, I'll just copy this. And then we'll do another one for the type. Call it set type. We'll do another one for the cause. And then one more for line number. And now this is going to then be able to set everything. So we have different methods to be able to set each of the individual strings. However, we don't have anything yet to insert that object. So next what we want is we want a public, and then we'll create this one as a virtual void and then commit logger. Now the virtual up here makes it so that we can extend this class. The next virtual makes it so that with this method, we're able to override it. And we will extend another class and override this to show you. But essentially what overriding does is it makes it so that way whatever is in this method, we can still leverage the same method name. However, we could have it be overwritten so that everything within this method is different from the simple logger to the other loggers that we create. So we're going to create a logger instance, new logger. So that'd be for the custom object. And we'll do log as message equal to message log stack underscore trace stack trace log type __c. The type log line number equal to line number and then cause. And then next we will insert the log. And then we'll debug it just so we can view that it was created. And then I can save and deploy. And that was successful. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create another logging class that extends. But first we're going to test this one out a little bit, just to make sure that everything is working correctly. So we got simple logger, and then I'll just do SL is equal to new simple logger, and then I can add a message right away. So we'll just add message, and then we have SL, and then we'll commit the logger right away. We don't have any validations or anything, so we can just commit it with only the message. Okay. And when we did that and debugged, we can see for the logger, we have the message which is message, and then the rest of them are null because we didn't do anything with those, and we have the ID. So that means that we were able to insert the log. We also can see the statements for the commit. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a new class, and we'll call it updated logger. Let's say we had the simple logger for a while. Within Apex we were leveraging it, then we realized we want to add a little bit more to some of the new logs that we want to create. So next what we're going to do is we can leave it as with sharing, and then, or actually I'm just going to remove the with sharing, that doesn't matter. And then we can extend simple logger. Oops, extends simple logger. Since we extended the simple logger, we have the ability to use everything that it has available. So we can use the set message, set stack trace, we can use all these methods within the simple logger. We can even commit the logger. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to save and then deploy. And then even though that's empty, I can take the updated logger, and we'll talk about the constructor afterwards. We'll call it UL, and then UL will set message, setting message, and then we can commit. So the UL commit the logger, and now we can run everything. And as you can see, when we run it, we're able to set the message, and in the debug, because within the commit logger, we debugged the commit, we're able to see the logger and the message and the ID. So we can see that it did insert, and we were able to use the simple logger class methods even though we were extending from the updated logger. Now what I want to talk about is the keyword super. So what we're going to do is we're first going to create a constructor. So we're going to do public and then updated logger, have a constructor. Within this constructor, we're going to have a string, and it'll be string message. This will be just like how we had it before. We had string message, and then we'll do string stack trace. So then what we can do is we can use the keyword super, and super allows us to use the constructor from the simple logger. So if I do message and put message into the super, then that's going to use the constructor right here with the string message, and then it's going to assign message. Now the next thing that I want to do is I want to show what happens when we try to set the string for stack trace. It's not going to let me from the constructor, or really it would be from anywhere within the updated logger. And then save and deploy. Now the one thing to note is that we have this as a private string. And again, oh, it's not even letting me because of the variable is not visible. Because this is private and stack trace is a private variable, we are not able to access stack trace from the extended updated logger. Now the reason for that is because it's private, makes it so that even extended classes are not able to. However, what we can do is we can change private to, let's keep it at, we can just change it to protected. And protected is another access modifier where the security level is in between public and private. Protected is where you can reference this string or any variable with the protected within anything that's extended. So the simple logger, because it's virtual, this updated logger, when it's extending the simple logger, we are able to then reference it. So if I were to change this to protected, save it, deploy, and then deploy the updated logger again, we can see that that deployed, and now we can try and make sure that it works. So I'm going to, with the constructor, it was a string and a string, so setting message, and then we'll just have it be setting stack trace. So we're using the super to set the message, and then the protected variable change to update stack trace. And now we can see when I commit the logger, we are debugging the logger, and we can see the message, which is the setting message, and then stack trace, which is setting stack trace. What I was thinking about doing was potentially, you can also, how we were doing getters and setters, you could specify the get to be public and then the set to be protected, and then that way any class would be able to view the variable, but only the ones that are within either the simple logger class or any class that's extending the logger would be able to set it. Now the next thing that I want to show is how to override. And what overriding is I can take this commit logger, and since it's virtual, I can override it and change it to be something other than what it currently is. So to make things a little bit more simple, I can copy all of it. And if you remember, the rest of these variables, the type, line number, cause, those are still private, so we can't reference those. Even this message, we're not able to reference them. So as an example, if I were to save and try deploying, oh, I also need to change. So in order to override, it is just using the override keyword. And then we can see the variable message, type, cause, line number. Those still are private, so they're not able to be referenced. So what we can do is we could go back and change all these. So we'll just do that. We'll change all these from protected or private to protected. Save and deploy. And then now what we can do is change, we'll just debug this method has been overwritten. And then we can deploy. The other thing to note is that if we notice that this is a void, we cannot change the return method for these methods. They have to still be void, or if this was Boolean, or if it returned the log, I cannot change it from the simple logger to be void and the updated logger to return the log itself. As an example, if I tried to return the logger, save it and deploy, I'm going to get an error. The return types clash. So that's one thing to note, is that the return types have to be the same. The other thing that you can do is, because this is extended, you could also create new methods. So if I wanted public void new method, this would not be able to be accessed if you created a simple logger class. It would only be able to be accessed if you created an updated logger class. Let's do a debug only available from the updated logger. And then I can save that and deploy. And that was successful. Now what we can do is we can commit, and then we can also use that new method and run. And I can see here within the debugs, we have this method has been overwritten. That was with the new overwritten method. We also logged the setting message, the stack trace, and then we used that new method, and we were able to log the only available from the updated logger. So that's how you can use a virtual class and extend it to another class and be able to use the super keyword to leverage the constructors that are in the simple logger or the virtual class, and then the override method to be able to take a method that the virtual class already has and then change it. And then we also went through what protected is and how that is able to be leveraged when you extend a class instead of a private variable, which would not be able to be leveraged from an extended class.